Good afternoon, Fantasy Bay. Mike Williams here, and today we're going to be going over free agent finds for Week 14. Let's get it started. So these are some players that you can pick up that may or may not be on your waiver wire, and they can help you win a championship. So starting off, everybody knows this one. I've been talking about it for weeks. Ryan Tannehill's been playing great. I think he's going to play fantastic. He goes against Oakland. They don't scare me, and he is always going to have a base with his legs, and I love quarterbacks that do that. Next, let's get to Ryan Fitzpatrick, or I like to call him Fitzmagic. I've got the magic in me. So Fitzmagic's been playing out of his mind. Win, lose, or draw, this man is happy screaming down the field every time he scores a touchdown. I love Fitzpatrick. Plays the Jets. Jets absolutely do not scare me. Fire him up. Sam Darnold had an absolutely awful game last week, but now he plays the Dolphins, so he should be fine. Sam Darnold, before this last game where he scored 9, I repeat, 9, 31, 33, 23. He was playing fantastic. One down game's not going to get me off of liking him for this week. He's playing the Dolphins. All right, let's get to the wide receiver position. Robbie Anderson was dropped in a lot of leagues because he was playing like absolute trash. So, understandably, people wanted to drop him. Last 2 weeks, 18-17. Now he gets the Dolphins. Let's go fire him up. Deebo Samuel, he's been pretty steady. He started off a little hot a couple weeks ago. He had 19, 21. Then he's starting to teeter back down a little bit, 13 and 14. But he plays the Saints. And I think that Lattimore is going to be covering Emmanuel Sanders. So I believe Eli Apple will be covering Deebo Samuel. And I think that he may be able to bust one. I like Deebo Samuel, though. He's a good player. All right, check and see if Sterling Shepard is on the waiver wire. This guy was dropped in a lot of leagues because he had a concussion and didn't come back for way longer than people were willing to wait. So I picked him up in a few leagues and I actually like him, especially down the stretch. I think he's going to play fine against the Packers. I know that the Packers are pretty solid against the wide receiver, but I think that Eli Manning is actually going to be playing in this game, and I believe he's a little more competent than Daniel Jones. James Washington had himself a game. Out of the last 4 games, he's been playing very well. 20 down to 7. 18, 21. Playing with Mr. Duckman himself. I think that going against the Cardinals, it's a great matchup. James Washington should be pretty solid. If you need a flyer, I think he's definitely good for that. Anthony Miller. So here's my thing on Anthony Miller. I actually really like Anthony Miller. The targets have been there. The only problem is I actually think that Dallas is a good defense, especially against the wide receiver. And it's a Thursday night game, short week. So if you need somebody, you need a flyer, I'm telling you, like I told you last week, if you need a flyer, Anthony Miller will be a solid flyer. If you played him last week, 23 fantasy points, that's absolutely fantastic. I don't think he gets 23 fantasy points this week, but I do think that he gets a solid line somewhere between 12 and 17. Also, got to be checking to see if D.D. Westbrook is out there now that Foles has been benched again. I do still think that Minshew was having a solid connection with D.D. towards the end of his reign. And the only thing I really don't like about this is going against the Saints. No, not the Saints. Who's he playing against? D.D. Westbrook. Uno momento, por favor. That means, hold up, wait a minute. Hold up, wait a minute. Anyways, I like D.D. Westbrook. I think D.D. Westbrook is a solid fantasy option. I like the targets that he's getting. He's doing a lot with his targets. And, so they're going against the Chargers. All right. Sorry about that. Sorry for the delay. Going against the Chargers. He won't be shadowed by Casey Hayward. DJ Chark will be, so I think that he gets some more targets, and I think he has a solid game. Next, we're going to go to running back. Rashad Penny has been looking pretty good. 18, 26 the last 2 games. Chris Carson and him are apparently best bros, because Chris Carson was like, hey, man, you know what? We're on the 10-yard line. I'm going to get out. You go ahead and get in and get that touchdown. And he did. Good job, Penny. I like how often the Seahawks run the ball. They run it the sixth most time in the league. I think that he's definitely going to get a solid amount of workload, and we know they like to run the ball. Going against the Rams, I think, is a solid matchup. They don't scare me on the ground. I think he's a good play. If Dalvin Cook, next, I'm going with Alexander Mattison. If Dalvin Cook doesn't play, Alexander Mattison may win some people some leagues. He is a beast. He just happens to be behind Dalvin Cook, who is a bigger beast. And he's going against the Lions, who suck against the run. I mean, they haven't been playing well in general, but they definitely suck against the run. I think Alexander Mattison is an absolutely must grab for Dalvin Cook owners. And for people that don't have Dalvin Cook, if you're looking for an upside flyer that could win you a game, this is the guy. Raheem Mostert. Honestly, this backfield is up in the air. Is Breida going to play? Is he not going to play? What the hell happened to Tevin Coleman last week? And they're going against the Saints, who do not allow a lot of yards to the running back. So this is more of a flyer. But if you need a flyer, he's pretty solid. If James Conner doesn't play, look into Benny Snell. They're going against the Cardinals, and they're not very good. So he'd be a fine play. I'm not playing Bo Scarborough if I don't have to. Going against the Vikings, which is a terrible matchup, and he's not involved at all in the receiving game. So I'm not looking for Bo Scarborough. Let's go to tight end Jack Doyle going against the Buccaneers. I think he's a fantastic ad. 19 fantasy points last week. With T.Y. Hilton probably out. Marlon Mack still banged up. Chester Rogers is also going to be out. I believe he had a season-ending injury. Brissett's looking to go somewhere, and Jack Doyle seems to be the man. So I think he's a fantastic ad. Jacob Hollister going against the Rams. If the Rams light up anything, I think that they can let up some tight end points. I like Jacob Hollister, and in a couple weeks, he's going to play the Cardinals. And everybody knows anybody playing the Cardinals is going to be a great play because they're absolutely awful against the tight end. Mike Gesicki, Dallas Goedert, they all fall into the same category. I like them both as solid plays if you need a flyer at tight end. Down to defense. The Vikings are on more waiver wires than you think, everybody. This is a service announcement. I found them this morning, actually. I was just turning on the app. I was like, you know what? Let me look through this. See what defenses we got. Vikings were there. I like that. You like that? Packers are there. And the Cowboys. I think all three of those are solid matchups. I obviously like the Vikings the most. Packers are going against the Redskins, who, yikes. I know they played well last week, but I think that's more of a mirage than what's to come. All right, I think that's going to do it for my free agent finds. But I wanted to talk to you about the playoffs and looking in the waiver wire. So here's my thing. After the waiver day, people have to drop people. And sometimes the people that are being dropped, they didn't want to drop them. They just had to. People really have to win this week. And sometimes they have to make a sacrifice. And that means cutting very, very talented people. So don't just look at who's out there. You got to look at who was dropped. Because there's some very good players that were dropped. I'm telling you, every week you should be looking at this, but especially during the playoffs, because people have to win right now, not like next week. They need to win right now. So they may be dropping some very good players. So go out and check them out. And I think that's going to do it for the day. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Check out the rest of my social media down below. Like and subscribe. And if you and that's going to do it. Mike Williams, Fantasy Bay. I'm out. Peace.